Level 1. The spark. Every obsession begins quietly. It never feels dangerous at first. It starts as curiosity, a goal, a person, an idea that catches your attention and refuses to leave. You think about it a few times a day, then a few times an hour. Then it's always there in the background, like a melody your brain won't stop humming. Your mind rewards you for paying attention. Each time you imagine the outcome, the success, the approval, the feeling of being closer, your brain releases dopamine. That's the chemical responsible for anticipation. Not pleasure, but the expectation of pleasure. And anticipation is stronger than the reward itself. You don't realize it, but your brain is already forming a loop. It's learning that thinking about this thing, this person, this project, this feeling, gives it stimulation. The more often you do it, the more automatic it becomes. At first, it feels like motivation. You call it passion. You tell yourself you finally found your purpose. But biologically, your brain doesn't care about purpose. It cares about repetition. The more you feed the spark, the more it demands. And if you're not careful, what feels like passion begins to reshape who you are. Level 2. The routine. The second stage of obsession doesn't feel like obsession at all. It feels like discipline. What once took effort now happens automatically. Checking your phone before your eyes are open, rereading a message, counting calories, rewriting a paragraph that was already fine. Your brain's nucleus accumbens, the core of the reward system, starts firing before you even take action. You no longer need the reward itself, you just need the anticipation of it. Scientists call this the habit loop. Cue, action, reward, repeat. The loop doesn't ask whether the action is good or bad, healthy or destructive. It only cares that it's familiar. Familiarity releases dopamine. Dopamine reinforces the pattern. You start mistaking repetition for control, but you're not in control. Your brain is. It's trained itself to expect stimulation at specific intervals. Skip it, and it punishes you with stress. Cortisol rises, focus drops, and your body pushes you to return to the habit just to stop the discomfort. The tragedy of this level is that the behavior still looks normal from the outside. Nobody sees a problem in someone who works a little too hard or checks their phone too often. But by the time you notice that it's not optional anymore, the loop is already closed. Level 3. The identity shift. At some point you stop doing it because you want to. You do it because it defines you. The obsession fuses with your identity. You no longer say, I work out a lot. You say, I'm an athlete. You don't say, I care about my work. You say, I'm a perfectionist. You don't say, I love them. You say, I can't live without them. Your brain's default mode network, responsible for self-image and introspection, starts linking the activity to your sense of self. Every success reinforces your identity. Every failure feels like personal collapse. You begin to judge your worth not by who you are, but by how well you perform within your obsession. When it goes well, you feel unstoppable. When it doesn't, you feel worthless. This is why quitting something you love can feel like dying. Your brain literally interprets it as the death of a part of you. You've taught it that survival depends on maintaining this attachment, and so you protect it, you defend it, you even rationalize its damage. Because if it's not good for you, then what does that say about who you've become? Level 4. The illusion of control. You still believe you're making choices, but your mind has already handed over the steering wheel. At this stage, you can't separate logic from compulsion. You tell yourself you're in control, that you could stop any time, that this is dedication, not dependence. But your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, is no longer in charge. The limbic system, which controls emotion and impulse, is calling the shots. You start rationalizing the hours you lose, the sleep you skip, the relationships you ignore. You convince yourself that the pain is proof of progress, that this is what high achievers do. What you're really doing is protecting the illusion of control, because acknowledging that you've lost it would break the identity you built in the last stage. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. the tension between what you know and what you need to believe. You know this is unhealthy. You know it's consuming you, but your brain can't afford to admit it because that would threaten the entire system of meaning it's built around the obsession. So you keep going. You tell yourself it's for something, success, love, legacy. But at this level, it's no longer about the goal, it's about the chase. Level 5, the sacrifice zone. Obsession always demands payment. Sleep disappears first, then appetite, then joy. You sacrifice everything that isn't part of the loop. The brain floods your body with cortisol, keeping you in a constant state of alertness. You're exhausted, but you can't rest. Your thoughts circle endlessly around one subject: what you could do next, what you could improve, what might go wrong if you stop. Your reward system collapses under its own weight. Dopamine receptors become desensitized. They need more stimulation to produce the same effect. You do more, chase harder, stay longer, but the satisfaction fades faster each time. This is anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from anything, even the thing you're obsessed with. You're no longer chasing joy, you're running from emptiness. People around you start noticing the change. You look tired, detached, irritable, but you tell them it's fine, that you're just focused. In truth, you can't remember the last time you felt peace. This stage breaks most people, but the ones who don't break, they descend even further. Level 6, the collapse. The body can't lie forever. Your immune system weakens, your concentration collapses, and your emotions spiral between numbness and rage. The parts of your brain responsible for logic and empathy start shutting down. The amygdala, which controls fear and emotional response, becomes hyperactive, while the hippocampus, which manages memory, starts shrinking. You begin to live in cycles of panic and exhaustion. You can't stop thinking, but you can't think clearly either. Your obsession no longer feels like a choice. It feels like survival. You isolate yourself because other people threaten the fragile balance you're barely maintaining. You reject advice, lash out at concern, and insist you're fine, even when you know you're not. At this point, the obsession has become your only anchor. It's the one thing still giving your brain consistent input, the last thread of meaning in a collapsing system. Ironically, that's what keeps you from quitting. Without it, you'd have to face the silence your mind has been avoiding. And silence, for someone deep in obsession, feels like death. Level 7, the transcendence. Most people never reach this stage. Those who do rarely come back. At this level, obsession becomes identity, faith, and purpose all at once. Logic is gone. Doubt is gone. You've stopped asking why. The only thing that matters is how much further you can go. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thought, quiets down. The limbic system takes over completely. You no longer decide to act. You simply act. The boundary between self and goal dissolves. Artists, inventors, athletes, saints, history is filled with people who reached this stage. They devote everything to one pursuit, often at the expense of their sanity or their health. The painter who forgets to eat, the scientist who loses track of time, the soldier who returns to war because peace feels meaningless. Their brains have adapted completely to a single narrative. Neurologists call this neural consolidation, when repeated patterns of thought become permanent structures. Their minds literally rewire themselves around their obsession. To the outside world, this looks like genius, but to the brain, it's the final form of addiction, the point where pleasure, pain, and purpose merge into one. They are no longer chasing a feeling, they are the feeling. Some reach greatness, others collapse, but all of them prove the same truth. Obsession isn't about what we love, it's about what we can't let go of. And once you've crossed that line, there's no real way back. In the end, obsession is what happens when purpose stops being a direction and becomes a cage. It can create empires, masterpieces, revolutions. but it can also consume the mind that built them. It's the purest expression of the human condition, our need to find meaning, even when it destroys us. Because in the brain, the line between purpose and madness is thinner than we like to admit.